There are crazy cool new options for list building in competitive 40k due to the recent miniature balance slate that we got with the new detachments. We got new keywords, we got even new units. This really changed list building in a very big way. So to close out 10th edition, I'm going to give you the 3 newer, or at least very recently revised detachments that you're not seeing in competitive play very often, but things that are very, very good now and very, very viable. So I'm freaking excited for this video. If you're excited for this video, stay tuned. I got 3 of them I'm going to rock out. The very first one is Fellhammer Siege Host. This one's awesome. But before I jump into it, I want to make sure that you guys understand I'm going to show you what I think is the strongest detachment in the game, and it is a spicy take, and it's going to be right after this one. So tune in. All right, Fellhammer Siege Host. Right now, rocking on it. The basically rule for the Fellhammer Siege Host has been good all edition, but we haven't really seen it because we haven't really had the units in order to make it function. And it's not only defilers that make it function. So here we go. The rule of the detachment is -1 to be wounded on all of your units if your opponent's strength is higher than toughness in shooting. This is a very good, solid rule. It's actually a very, very big defensive buff. It can be a very, very profound defensive buff on your entire army. So this is going to lead us into doing some very, very interesting things in our list building. Now, I'm not going to go in detail about every single enhancement or every single stratagem, but I've got the stratagems written out on this page so that I can just get you in the mindset so that I can talk to you about how this detachment wants to run and how you're really going to be wanting to build it out. So your stratagems are very simple. You've got reroll hit rolls in melee after you've been selected as a target. So this, a lot of people previously thought was a really bad stratagem because like, oh wait, you have to get hit first and then you get to reroll hit rolls in melee? Huh. Well, what this is telling us is it's telling us that we really want durable units. We want a unit that can actually take a punch. With the implementation of our defilers, you got it. Defilers can absolutely take a punch. So if they end up getting charged, well, now on the swing back, they're going to become devastating because these Electro Scourges with their sustained hits too becomes nightmarish with 4 rolls to hit. And then your big clanking claw, also a really big problem. Not to mention, your defilers are always rerolling wound rolls of 1, and they can supercharge it once per game to get full rolls to wound. These guys can very regularly be just rerolling hit rolls and rerolling wound rolls in melee, making them a nightmare to actually deal with when you get into the melee step. They also become very problematic to kill at range now with that super keyed in -1 to be wounded, because now they're a T11 unit model that's -1 to be wounded, which strength is higher than toughness, meaning all of your las cannons and really anything stronger than that are wounding on 4s, not on 3s. That's actually a very profound difference. So they become very, very durable here. So we like defilers here. And that's something that previously this detachment did not have access to, which I do believe is one of the main reasons why people haven't been playing it, because it didn't have the units to fill it. All right, you got weapons become pistol. This is actually quite good on a variety of units. It's something that a lot of people, which fair play, a lot of people have kind of ignored this strat, but what it does is it can enable quite a few different things. So for example, you take an obliterator and now this bad boy gets to shoot in melee. So he doesn't need to fall back and shoot. But you know what else really, really loves this type of an ability? You guessed it. Terminators. Terminators absolutely love this. Listen, Chaos Space Marine Terminators are one of those units that you don't see on the tabletop, and sometimes it's really hard to figure out why. Because their base rule is reroll hit rolls. And when they use a Dark Pact, they get reroll hit rolls. That's a pretty dang good rule when you combine it with these Chaos Space Marines special faction ability, which is just get sustained hits or get lethal hits. Of course, you do have to pass the Dark Pact, otherwise you'll suffer D3 mortal wounds. But whenever we get reroll hit rolls, that's a great ability. When we get rerolls, hit rerolls, and we get to stack it with either sustained or lethal, however you want it, it becomes an incredibly good ability. Now, the reason why we don't see Chaos Terminators is because they're just not durable enough for their points. Fellhammer Siege Host kind of solves this problem. You're -1 to be wounded in shooting, so now you're T5 with a 2-up armor save, with a 4-up invulnerable save. You probably got cover, and you're -1 to be wounded in shooting, which is a huge durability upgrade for these guys. But you also get a 5-up feel no pain in shooting with a 1 CP stratagem. So now you're 2-up armor save, 4-up invulnerable save, you got cover, you're T5, you're -1 to be wounded, and you have a 5-up feel no pain. There's really nothing in the entire game that is actually good at shooting that. And it makes this unit really, really annoying to ever target and really, really frustrating to ever shoot. And it also makes it quite hard to deal with them because they hit you pretty damn hard. We just say, hey, they get full rerolls to hit. But they get it natively, so they don't have to get hit first. But we're gonna turbocharge this. We're gonna make it even better. Let me finish these strats, and I'm gonna show you how we're gonna make that Terminator unit even scarier here. You've also got an ability that after you've been hit in the fight phase, you get to roll up to 6d6 for every attack that hit you. They don't have to have wounded you, mind you, and every 4 is a mortal wound. So on average, you're going to just bounce 3 mortal wounds back on your opponent when they hit you in melee. You also have a stratagem just to make you -2 charged. Okay, and then finally we have a stratagem which admittedly still sucks. You get crits on 5s when you're shooting a unit that is below half strength. Now, I'm going to build the whole story out for you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this army list that I've built for you. This is a practice list. Take it, play with it, see if you like it. Sorry, I actually need to adjust this so you can, because there's a rhino in here as well. There's a practice Fellhammer siege host list that I want you guys to practice with and build off of it. We're going to take Khorne Blackheart by himself, and this madman is going to lead 10 Terminators. Why? Because in Fellhammer, listen, we've already talked about how durable they are in the shooting, especially when you combine that 5 Feel No Pain. But Khorne gives them that reactive move, which is on average going to be a 5-inch reactive move. Makes it so that it's a D3 plus 3, right? So it's on average a 5-inch reactive move. When you combine this with your stratagem to be -2 to be charged, it makes this Terminator squad practically unchargeable. You already desperately do not want to be forced to kill this thing in shooting, because -1 to be wounded and a 5 Feel No Pain from the stratagem makes it a nightmare to kill in shooting. So the way that you want to kill this thing is in melee, but it's going to be very, very hard to actually charge him in melee. When my Sanguinary Guard move on out, to give themselves a 2-inch charge into Khorne 5-inch reactive moves. Now that 2-inch charge has turned into a 7-inch charge, and he spends 1 CP for -2 to charge. Now that 2-inch guaranteed charge has officially become a 9-inch charge. This is nightmare territory for a unit that desperately wants to be killing the squad in melee, which is, most armies are going to be wanting to deal with a squad in melee. Then, in their turn, they're just going to move on forward, shoot, charge, obliterate. It's a big, big problem for people to deal with. So take this as you will. This is how I'm looking at the list for right now. We got Cypher, load up stuff. We got Khorne Blackheart, blah, blah. He gets the reactive moves, all those amazing things. We have 1 Traitor Enforcer. Now, he doesn't get to benefit for the -1 to wound because he's a damned unit, but whatever. A 55-point model that has an invulnerable save, a 4 Feel No Pain. It is a really, really good trash unit that can just go do stuff for you. Cultist Mob, because Cultist Mob's sticky and you have to have a Cultist Mobs. Legionnaires, you need to send a unit out there, a little bit more durable in this detachment. It makes it a little more annoying to actually kill at ranged. The 10 Terminator squads, which we've already spoke about. 5 Possessed is just a brutally efficient trading unit. It's 120 points. They just get to go out there and actually murk their opponent. 5 Raptors, because they're a brutally efficiently trading unit, especially when you consider the fact that these guys have their 3 heavy melee weapons. It's kind of wild. A unit of Chaos Bikers, -1 to be wounded, makes them even tougher to deal with at range. The Defiler, because this Defiler is absolutely awesome. We totally love him, and we have 3 of them. We have 3 Defilers in this detachment. Please note the ×3. These bad boys, T11, -1 to be wounded. If the Terminators are not exposed, perhaps I'll use a 5 Feel No Pain on these guys. You can give them, they're shooting with their Dark Packs. They're going to get re-rolling wound rolls. They become absolutely nightmare territory to be able to deal with in this particular detachment. That -1 to be wounded is everything when it comes to their durability. Then I actually threw a Venom Crawler here, and a lot of people might scratch their heads, but a Venom Crawler with -1 to be wounded is a different type of unit that you actually have to commit in. It requires a different amount of commitment to actually kill that Venom Crawler, which forces your opponent to expose different things. So this is Fellhammer. It's awesome, very durable, quite hard to deal with. Let's go quickly into the next one, which I'm excited to talk about, and this is going to be the Freebootaz crew. Listen, I love orcs. I'm a huge orc guy. I miss playing my orcs. I really, really miss playing them, but now we actually have some new, unique, cool things that maybe we can actually build around. So what is the Freebootaz crew? So Freebootaz crew is giving us sustained hits on a chosen objective that is in the command phase. Previously, when this was originally released, it was at the beginning of the battle round, which made this such a bad detachment rule because it made it very easy for your opponent to play around. But now that it's in the command phase, it's almost impossible for your opponent to play around because you get to choose where you want your sustained hits. Now, different to Warhorde, because I hear people complaining like, oh, it's just Warhorde. No, it's very different, actually. You only get sustained hits on this objective, or when you are either you are on this objective or your opponent is on this objective. But it just needs 1 model on that objective. So you can have like a unit of 20 boys hitting something that is not on an objective and just string 1 boy to just barely clip the center objective, and now the whole squad has sustained hits. But different from Warhorde, You also get the sustained hits in shooting, which opens you up to all sorts of crazy shooting builds. You can run Ludas, who are now getting sustained hits. You can run Tank Busters, who are now getting sustained hits. You can run Def Copters. This actually is a dramatic improvement in the amount of damage that a Def Copter unit can put out with sustained hits and then their twin-linked rocket launchers. This opens up a huge amount of orc potential. But let's go through these stratagems. It has an auto 6-inch advance, which is fantastic when you include it with the WA, which is your army rule, which guarantees that you can get advance and charge when you want it. It's just guaranteed movement. Very, very powerful stratagem. Command phase 1 CP WA. This is the one that is like the claim to fame for the detachment, because with this ability, you can just put a unit in the WA whenever you want. Yes, if you use this on Gazkul Mech or Thraka's unit, Makari will give a lethal aura to everything in the army because that unit is now in the WA. This is so powerful. It allows you to do some crazy cool things. Even early game, if you're not ready to be committing and you want to say, I don't know, get a 10-man unit of Ludas out on your natural expansion, just tow one model backwards, then shoot everything at someone. Since you chose your objective in your command phase, now the entire unit has sustained hits with potentially 4 rolls to hit if they're shooting something on an objective. So it just gives you a lot of options that you can actually do. Now, no, I'm not saying Ludas are incredible, but you do have enhancements to make them a little bit better. You can give them ignore cover, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with this detachment. Reroll wound rolls on the objective you choose. Basically just makes that your beast boss who charges with your beast Snagus, who gets devastating wounds and anti-monster vehicle 4 up on the charge. He just obliterates literally anything in the game that he charges. Makes him unbelievably powerful. Same thing can be said for Break Boys. Break Boys with their anti-monster vehicle 4 up weapons, one of which is Dev. Now rerolling wound rolls gets brutally efficient. Also being able to put them in the WA when you don't want to declare WA for the whole army is just so profound. So profound. You got a reactive move to a fallback, which allows you to play a game where you can reactively move back into transports. So let's say I charge with, I don't know, 20 boys and a war boss, hint, hint, and I kill some stuff, and I tag some stuff, and I make sure every single model in my unit is within 10 inches of my battle wagon, or 9 inches of my battle wagon. Now when my opponent falls back, I'm just going to reactive move this entire unit back inside of my battle wagon, and we're ready to rock and roll. This is a huge, huge deal that can make quite a bit of difference over the course of the game, especially with an army like Orcs, which is always wanting to be tagging absolutely everything. Not necessarily the easiest thing to set up, but it can happen. We've got a 1 CP stratagem to give blast against infantry. If you have a unit of Khorne Berserkers that is touching an objective, and then you shoot a unit of sustained hits, Ludas, with 4 rolls to hit, wounding on 2s, ignoring cover because they're led by, I don't know, a shock attack gun, Big Mech, with blast, suddenly that's going to be, what is it, 8 times 3, so that's going to be 24 shots. And then I'm going to be blast each, which is going to be +4 each. So 8 times 4 is going to be 32. So 32 plus 24, we're be looking at 56 hits if my horrible math is not wrong. 56 attacks with sustained hits, with full rolls to hit, and then wounding on 2s with AP1 ignore cover. That is a abusive amount of damage that you're actually putting out. So it's actually quite a reasonable strat. And then we have anti-vehicle 4 up and shooting for flash kits, which when you do the math on it, this stratagem kind of basically just sucks. It's going to be very niche if you ever use it, but whatever. Not every single strat is going to be a banger in every single detachment. But this freebooted crew will allow for a variety of builds. Now, I have one that's going to be very, very interesting for you guys. It's actually going to be kind of green tidy here for you. So what we're going to be doing is we are actually going to be running a 60 orc boy army. This is enabled by the fact that we could put a unit in the WA practically whenever we want to put a unit in the WA. It's also enabled by the fact that we can reactive move. So we're going to take Gaz, and we're going to take the Big Mech. Now, the Big Mech is going to have an enhancement that can potentially give you +1 strength. It can potentially give you +2 to move, which is the one you really want. It's a random Orc E enhancement, which is fun, but sometimes very unreliable. But it's very, very interesting. It's going to be the same unit we run in Warhorde. We're going to take that exact same build out. It's going to be Gaz and the Big Mech with 20 boys. Then I'm going to take another 2 20-man boy squads, both led by a war boss for that sweet, sweet +1 to hit. And they're going to be inside their respective battle wagons. Then I'm going to take a third war boss. He's going to be leading a 5-man unit of knobs. This is a problem-solving unit. I'm going to have Gretchen, because you want to take as much Gretchen as possible. 2 5-man units of Ludas, because Ludas with sustained hits and 4 rolls to hit can actually deal with like trash quite well. It can also deal with, some power armored armies in certain scenarios. Their job isn't necessarily to deal with them. Their job is to be a 50-point unit that I can just throw out and do something with. A squad of commandos, you will almost always split this into 2 5-mans. Very, very useful. It's worth noting that you do have an enhancement that would allow you to do redeploy shenanigans with your infiltrators. That is actually a very, very reasonable option as well. And then lastly, we're going to have our 2 units of battle wagons. This is an army where all of my 60-man boys units, or my 20-man boys units led by their leaders, I can just repeatedly put them back into the wall, I can reactive move back into a battle wagon when one's about to get annihilated. I can do so much cool stuff with these units. That's why I'm thinking about this right now. Now, there's a lot of builds with Freebootaz. I'm excited to hear what you guys come up with as well. And then lastly, what I suspect might be the strongest detachment in the entire game. This is it, guys. This might be the strongest detachment in the game currently. Khorne daemonkin. Now, this is not a new detachment, but due to the implementation of the defilers, something very, 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 very cool has happened. If you guys don't understand what Khorne daemonkin does, Khorne daemonkin basically allows you to get buffs to your demon units that you're taking in the World Eater's army based off of how many kills you've got. You can do things such as giving the Bloodletter's Lance, or any Khorne unit Lance. You can do things like you can give your demons the ability to gain Blessings of Khorne. There's a lot of really cool things that you can actually do with this, and you gain points based off of the units that you kill. And there's some randomness in there, but it's a decent detachment roll. But you've got some of the best stratagems in the entire game. One of them might be the best stratagem in the entire game. It's called Surprise Bloodletters. Basically, it's not actually what it's called. It's called Summon by Slaughter. But basically what happens is, in any phase, when a unit on the table dies, your unit, your opponent's unit, doesn't matter. Can be in the charge phase, can be in the shooting phase, doesn't matter. You can summon a unit of Bloodletters out of reserves, and all they gotta do is appear wholly within 9 inches of where that unit died, and outside of 6 inches of your opponent's unit. You can tank shock something to death and then summon this unit of Bloodletters onto the table, be at +1 to charge. Now, people used to think that you couldn't do that, but it's been recently, it's been since FAQ'd, so you can do it. You've got things like on an Overwatch, your opponent drops down, you kill it with your Forge Fiend in Overwatch, you can summon Bloodletters exactly where they died. There's so many interesting applications for this. It's one of the best primary denial and primary scoring units in the entire game. You can have a solo unit touching an objective, your opponent shoots it, kills it. If they didn't have anything lined up to kill whatever else was going to be on that objective, now you can summon Bloodletters to guarantee that you're going to score primary. It's a very, very powerful ability. The problem with this detachment is that you used to require 2 Forge Fiends to make it work. And double Forge Fiends, the reason for this is that 1 Forge Fiend, even with rerolls to hit, would very often leave like a 10-man unit of infantry alive on 2 wounds, so you need another unit to shoot it. But since we have a Defiler now, we don't need 2 Forge Fiends. We can just run 1 Defiler, which is cheaper than 2 Forge Fiends. It's got better shooting than those Forge Fiends had. And then it's a World Eater's Defiler, which means that it might be the most broken unit in the entire game. I'm going to do an entire other video dedicated to just how busted the World Eater's Defiler is. But the World Eater's Defiler's ability in a nutshell is, at the end of your opponent's movement phase, any unit that they had that was set up on the battlefield this turn. This means coming from reserves. This means coming from out of a transport, so disembarking from transport. That is then 12 inches within the range of the Defiler. You can then just shoot it, or you can charge it. So if there's a 6-inch deep strike anywhere, like a unit of Inceptors drop down, that Defiler could just charge them. If you're playing triple Land Raider Custodes and the Custodes get out of the Land Raider and then move up to charge the Defiler, you could just charge them, which means that they can't charge you. There is so much brutal crap that you can do with this Defiler. And it also moves 14 inches in this detachment, with just being able to walk through walls. That is such a big problem for your opponent. It makes it much harder to move block it, makes it much harder for you to eliminate where it can move, because even though it has a big fat base, it's such a big deal. So this is what we're doing with this detachment. Let me give you the practice list, and I'm going to actually just kind of walk you through it here a little bit, and then I got to run because I got some coaching calls I got to be on. All right, so this is the Khorne daemonkin. I am going to do like this, and maybe just, yeah. Okay, so you guys should be able to see the list here. We're going to have Skarbrand, because Skarbrand is awesome. Skarbrand natively gets advance of charge. We love him. He also kills everything. And when we're playing World Eaters, I'm pretty sure you agree with me when I say we want to kill everything. We have a Lord on Juggernaut with the Disciple of Khorne enhancement. What this does is it allows him to lead Blood Crushers. And since he's leading Blood Crushers, the Lord on Juggernaut lets the Blood Crushers move through walls. This is incredibly powerful because Blood Crushers cause D3 mortals on a 4-up for each model unit when they charge. So it's 7 D3s, or 7 dice. You roll for every 4-up you roll. It's D3 mortal wounds. That's potentially 7 D3 mortal wounds. That is an absolutely obnoxious amount of mortal wounds that can happen on the charge phase. It can happen on a heroic intervention. It's a very hard hitting unit that creates a lot of problems. We're gonna have 1 Slaughterbound with a Blade of Endless Bloodshed, gives them +1 strength, +1 damage. 3 units of Bloodletters. We've got 8-bound, we've got Exalted 8-bound, because 8-bound give +1 to hit against infantry, Exalted 8-bound, kill monsters and vehicles. Still very useful, good World Eater stuff. Goremongers, Infiltrators are awesome. Jackals, sticky, we love it. The Blood Crushers, which is one of the strongest units in the entire game when they're attached to the Lord on Juggernaut. Remember, you can start them in Deep Strike, they can rapid ingress, and then just run through terrain, so they're not limited by the normal rules of mounted units. 2 squads of Fleshhounds, the Defiler, and a War Dog Stalker. The War Dog Stalker, some of you might be scratching your heads at, but trust me on this one. Having a scout move on that Stalker and being able to put a War Dog on your natural expansion turn 1 forces a response from your opponent that they're not used to having to do against World Eaters. If you put a Stalker on that objective, you have 14 wounds and you get a 5-up invuln against shooting. It means that your opponent has to expose like 2 relevant shooting platforms. They can't just shoot 1 Gladiator Lancer, because with a 5-up invulnerable save, you're probably going to survive 1 Lancer shooting you. So it's going to require your opponent to dedicate like 300 plus points of shooting to actually try to kill that Stalker, which is a huge deal for you. It means that you get all of their scary things like consolidated into one area early on. It also means that they can't just put out a unit of scouts, like Space Marine scouts with 5 OC, out there to out OC the War Dog, meaning that they actually have to try to kill the War Dog, or put just much more relevant things with much higher OC to try to deny you primary. So it's a very, very, very big deal, giving you the opportunity to get your opponent to expose themselves much earlier than expected. Now, I'm going to be talking more about Khorne daemonkin in other videos, because I do believe with a little tweaks, I'm not quite there on the list building yet. This is a great place to get you started. I want to hear where you're going with it, but I do believe Khorne daemonkin has the potential of being the strongest detachment in the entire game, now with the addition of the World Eater Defilers. They make such a big difference. I don't think 3 Defilers is correct in Khorne daemonkin. I could be wrong, but I want to start with 1. I'm going to work my way up from there. So guys, these are 3 detachments that I'm very, very excited about currently that I was not excited about just a few weeks ago. So hopefully you enjoy this video. Take the thoughts that I've had, run with it yourselves. I want to see what list you're running. Let me know down low in the comments down below what detachments you're excited for with all this new stuff. Until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.